Hey y'all, welcome back to the Humble Henry channel. This is where I like to talk about pay transparency, spend transparency, and my debt-free life. Today's video, first and foremost, is my 10th video on YouTube, so very excited for that. Thank you to everyone who's been here on this journey since video number 1. The topic for my 10th video is going to be how I paid off over $42,000 of debt across the time span of about 6 years. It was a journey, so let's get into it. First and foremost, I have always wanted to be debt-free as an adult. I just felt like it was important based on the way I was brought up and the principles I was taught about personal finance. I knew that debt freedom sounded great. So when I started to get this debt, mostly from going to college, I was like, okay, I want this paid off by 30. Of course, I was in my early 20s at the time. What's important here is to note that being debt-free was a mentality for me. It was a mental choice, first and foremost, that dictated the actions that I made from that point on. The mental choice, and it meant that there were going to be things I said yes to, there were going to be things I said no to, and there were other decisions I was going to make that were going to help me on my debt-free journey. To get into the tactical kind of parts of it, you could say that I sort of followed the snowball method, some might say. That is where you attack your debt's smallest amount to largest amount. I know based on my own personal motivation style that that would be something rewarding for me. Let me use an example. You might have a credit card balance of $800. So let's say you're putting $250 a month towards it. And then once it's paid off, you have a car payment. You just have a couple $1,000s left on that. So if you were paying $300 on your car payment, now you take the $250 a month plus the $300 and you make $550 towards the car payment. So you're creating a snowball and you're getting you're getting wins along the way. So that is really what I did. I paid off a Parent Plus student loan, paid off a private student loan, I paid off my car, and then I paid off my federal student loans, which were the bulk of my debt. There was not any sort of money that I got from my parents. There wasn't any sort of government forgiveness. I definitely thought Joseph was going to have my back, and as we all know, that did not come to fruition, right? And so it was really just me attacking the loans that way. What was important for me, one, was to be very diligent with my automation of my finances. I had all of these payments on auto pay, so I couldn't just sit around and be like, oh, I forgot this, I forgot that. That's part of why I also have such a high credit score. I don't have any missed payments in my credit history. During my debt payoff journey, I also always worked at least 2 jobs, if not more. I didn't love it. There were weeks and weeks at a time where I was working 7 days, like working every single day, every single day, every single day. And of course, I'm not advocating to like burning yourself out or anything, but I was in my early 20s. I had the energy for it, right? And so it was like, this is the time where if I give a ton, it's gonna have huge payoffs. So I had my corporate job where I was working full time, and then I also had restaurant jobs or other part-time things that were just bringing in money, and I would usually throw that right at my student loans. During my debt payoff journey, sometimes it can be discouraging when it feels like the needle is not moving on those balances and you're just thinking, wow, am I ever actually going to be debt free? But what was helpful for me was to also have a couple trusted voices that I could go to during this process. So a very close friend of mine is a CPA, and all of your CPA friends do not want to help you with your personal finances. But I got lucky that my CPA friend is also very passionate about personal finance. So they were someone that I went to a lot to help me with different Excel spreadsheets about payoff schedules and what I should be throwing at things and comparing interest rates and different options. I also went to my dad a lot. He's also very passionate about personal finance and about setting me up for success, all his kids up for success. And so he was someone that I could go to because there was a point where I became net worth positive without paying off all my debt. And that was when I had to ask the question of, do I want to stay super liquid and have this money in a brokerage or in a bank account, or do I want to take a big chunk of my savings to pay off my debt, which is ultimately what I decided to do. Now, of course, my dad, like the youngest age a baby boomer could be, and so he grew up with a very different financial mindset and understanding than people have today, but he was still a trusted voice for me. So I paid off the Parent Plus loan, I paid off my car, I paid off my other private student loan, and then I just had the bulk of that federal loan. Now, thinking about the timeline of this happening, I got a lot of that paid off around 2019, 2020, and then COVID, right? So at this point, I would be remiss to not mention that I was greatly benefited by the policies that froze interest on federal student loans. At that point, I was not making payments, right? I was not one of those people making payments in the pandemic, but I wasn't being reckless with my money either. I was making tons of contributions to my savings account, and then in 2023 was when I became net worth positive, and I got the choice to make, do I want to take a huge chunk out of my savings to pay off my student loans, be debt free, or do I want to use that money for something else, right? Because there's definitely a school of thought where you have these low interest student loans, you could put your money in the market and make more, but it ultimately comes down to personal finance being a personal choice. And I knew that I was gonna have plenty of decades left to invest and to build money in the stock market, but I wanted to start from scratch, so to speak, or from being debt free. So in 2023, I chose to take the biggest withdrawal out of my savings account ever that made me so uncomfortable, and I used that money to pay off my student loans. This video is not to share any sort of magical tips or tricks to paying off the student loans or paying off your debt. It ultimately comes down to being a decision that you have to make not once, but every single day, right? You have to decide that your debt freedom is a priority to you. It is extremely important to you. And it's something that you're going to be willing to work harder than you might want to on. There were so many times when my friends were going out to eat or doing different things and I wanted to join, but I was like, I'm not gonna skip work for this. I'm not gonna take off work for this. And also having part-time jobs helped me to cut down on my spending because of the fact that I was just physically occupied during those times. When I found myself feeling isolated from my friend group, I would just host. Instead of us going out, let me have a movie night, right? Everybody brings snacks, we still get the social activity, but I don't have to spend money. No one has to spend money. And so you also have to be creative on your debt payoff journey to still make sure you're having a fulfilling life, but prioritizing your financial future. So I hope that this video was somewhat helpful. Being debt-free has been huge for me, and honestly looking back and realizing that it was over $42,000 in debt is crazy to me. I wish I had done so much more work to get scholarships to help me with my student loans. I wish that I had, if I had it all to do again, right, things would be done differently. But no matter what your debt amount is, I believe that it can be possible for you to be debt-free if that is something that you truly want to work towards. I wish you all the best of luck. If you have specific questions on the process or different things that I did, feel free to drop them in the comments. I hope that you like and subscribe for more content about pay transparency, spend transparency, and my debt-free life. Thanks for watching. Bye.